All right, I think we are live now.
Yeah,
Let's begin. All right, thank you. So welcome everyone. ठीक है. All right, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the PWAN live session. We're going to be talking about e-businesses, digital skills, and the current COVID-19 situation. For those of you who are not in Islamabad, thank you for joining us, and for those of you who are, I hope you guys are enjoying this beautiful weather we are having since morning, and I hope we can send some rain to the other areas of Pakistan as well today. So we have a very nice panel that we will have on board to discuss some of the discussion points. We have Jehan. She will be joining us very shortly. Jehan is the president of Pakistan Software House Association based in Karachi. We have Maria Umar. Welcome, Maria. So Maria is from the PWAN alumni as well. She's women digital. She's the founder of the Women Digital League in Lahore. And then we have Saad Hamid. He's also an IVLP alumnus and a community manager at Google Islamabad. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cynia, and thank you, PWAN, for inviting us.
It's a pleasure to have you guys here. So yeah, I just wanted to start today's discussion by first of all, obviously discussing the current situation due to the mandatory social distancing practicing that are around the world. Some of the non-essential brick and mortar retailers have been forced to shut down their businesses, and that has resulted in a high rise in demand for e-commerce. Now, while e-commerce has been gradually rising over the years, it has lagged behind in compared to the physical store performances as well. But due to this current situation, the current COVID-19 pandemic, businesses are adopting digital practices, and they know that once they do adopt some sort of digital practices, they will not be only able to survive, but also thrive. So today we have, as I mentioned, an amazing panel with whom we will be discussing the digital e-commerce landscape in Pakistan, the challenges and opportunities that it entails, and along with the importances of digital skills for the economic development of the country. Thank you for joining us, Jehan. We were just discussing the initial, giving the initial introductions. So for those of you who just joined in as well, Jehan Ara is our big bird. She's the president of Pakistan Software Housing Association for IT and the founder of Nest.io. Jehan has 30 years of experience in marketing, communication, and interactive new media in Hong Kong, Far East, UAE, and Pakistan. She is a motivator, an entrepreneur, a social activist, and a strong propagator of extending the power and use of information and communication technologies beyond the pure traditional businesses. And that's something that we would like to discuss with her today in the context of e-commerce businesses. Maria Umar, she's been really active in women empowerment, digital skills. So she's the founder and president of Women's Digital League, WDL, and which is basically an online platform that provides digital training and work to Pakistani women. She's also been working in different organizations like World Bank, Facebook, and Upwork. She successfully implemented the first digital livelihood training program, a project funded by the World Bank in KPK, teaching women how to e-lands. Saad Hamid is a digital evangelist. I'm sure most of you would know the work that he has done over the past decade. He's been working in great organizations. He's also been involved in setting up and scaling some of the first digital skills programs in Pakistan. So the e-Rozgar program, the Skills First, and the DG Skills programs is something that he's actively advocating on to promote young people and help them learn digital skills. So welcome, everyone. My first question will be to you, Jehan. I wanted to ask you, with your background, what do you think are some of the challenges that people will face now setting up their businesses online, and how will they be able to provide those online services in Pakistan? I think you're on mute, Jehan. If you could unmute. It's okay.
I noticed that right after I started.
No worries.
Nice to be here. Hello, Saad, Maria. Good to see you. So I think one of the major challenges is that people really need to attain the level of trust so that customers will want to buy from them online, because that's going to be one of the main things that people will look at, that okay, I'm going online, especially if they're using a credit card or they're using a wallet. Is the product going to get to me? Is the quality of the product going to be good? That kind of thing. And if it isn't, if it's broken, for instance, will I be able to return it? So these are questions that will come to the mind of consumers. So that level of trust that you need to establish. Now, if you're an established brand already, it's easier because people are used to going into your stores and buying the products. They know the quality of the products. But if you're a new player and you want to go online and just become an online store rather than both an online and offline store, then that trust will have to be built over time, and you will need to make sure that you pay as much attention to your customer base as possible. One of the complaints that we have had for online stores over a period of time, and not just during the COVID-19 period, is that, oh, we order a product and they say it will be delivered in 2 days, but even after 7 days, it hasn't gotten to us. So, this delay in the delivery of the product is, causing customers to say, hey, they don't keep their word. The problem is that when you have an online store, you are also dependent on other vendors, because you're not necessarily a big player who has a warehouse with all sorts of products. You are depending on others to make sure that they send the product out as soon as you place the order, right? So you need to make sure that whatever products you're dealing with, that you have a group of vendors who are reliable, so that whatever you promise to your customer, it is delivered, right? This is improving with providers like IKEA. The delivery time is certainly getting better. Payments are getting better because of EasyPaisa, several wallets, SafePay, Finja, card payments. Card payments, not so much now. I think people are relying more on the fintech wallets. And I think that's why it's becoming easier. But cash on delivery is still the number one thing, both in India and in Pakistan, simply because people, want to be able to deal with money. But COVID-19 has changed that, because people don't really want to handle notes. So I think, whereas it's a scary period, the COVID-19 crisis, some things that have happened is we've become digitally more online. More Pakistanis are online. Big businesses who didn't think digital was the way to go are now out there. Older people, younger people, everybody is now trying out online, whether it is for learning, whether it is for online commerce, whether it is to communicate. And that's a good thing for us. Now we need to make sure that that trust is established and that we do what we promise. So I think that's my take on the challenges for online businesses. Have reliable vendors, make sure you keep your word, the kind of products. Also, make sure that the payment vehicle that you are using is a trustworthy one as well.
All right, thank you, Jehan. And I think some of the challenges here, what I gathered from your answer is also that people need to understand how they can pivot, because there are businesses that are very traditional at the moment, but there is opportunity to take them online provided the current situation. So I think understanding how you can pivot, how you can manage a very well organized supply chain is also one of the things that I gathered from your answer. Thank you. Saad, my next question is for you. You're an advocate for promoting digital skills for the masses. How do you think Pakistan is going about doing so? And in your opinion, what has been one of the most interesting digital trend for 2020?
So so again, Cynia, thank you for asking that. Juan, thank you for inviting. Really amazed to be here with old friends, colleagues. It's again to keep bumping into them. So much stuff that we've done over the years, and it's kind of an opportunity to summarize, look back at the great stuff that we have done. I think when it comes to digital skills, so if you look at overall digital transformation with Pakistan, this hua kya hai ki like not just Pakistan, all over the world, like digital transformation was going at a very natural pace, and suddenly it has kind of gone 10x, like it has accelerated. Like everyone wants to go online because it's for their business, because of it's for their survival. And similar kind of things have happened with digital skills as well. Luckily, Pakistan has been one of the few countries in the world that had multiple digital skills programs that were going on. So it was not kind of like a sudden surprise for the government or the country as a whole, oh, now let's start doing something, because there were programs like e-Rozgar, there were programs like KPF, there were private sector programs. There was DG Skills itself, which literally is an online learning program. So a lot of the foundation was already there. And now I think that foundation is being tested on scale. So that is happening. Pehle to it was an option, right? Oh, you could go online if you want to. But now online is your kind of first choice, the first thing that you're going to do. So that has kind of given a kind of a new opportunity to the people who are learning, and it has kind of given a new challenge to the people who are providing these kind of learning opportunities. And there's still so much work that is being done. I know TEFTA एक program run कर रहे हैं अभी. उसके अलावा there are a lot of other organizations who are trying to get into this new wave of learning. There are whole kind of private sector organizations who are looking into e-learning. There are incubators who are looking into how to support edtech companies. I keep coming across really, really amazing companies who are into edtech, who are into learning, and they are accelerating day by day. तो एक तो वो वाला part है. दूसरा एक part which is very important to mention is I was just reading a report by Payoneer, which is one of the international payment service very popular in Pakistan for freelancers. उनकी एक report आई which is on the effect of freelancing by COVID-19, और उसमें काफी interesting 3 points हैं, तो मुझे if I can remember them correctly. एक तो point ये है कि जो overall demand है वो थोड़ी सी कम हो गई है. क्यों? Because internationally, who are the countries which buy these services? It's North America, it's UK, it's Australia. वहाँ पे भी चुके businesses में there has been an economic impact, so demand थोड़ी सी कम हो गई. However, even though that the demand has decreased, the hourly rate of freelancers have not changed at all. So ये एक बहुत interesting insight है. The third one is the number of freelancers have grown. So you can see how despite the very changing statistics, very changing scenario, freelancers are still growing. And you know why? Because everyone wants to have that one side gig which is online. पहले ये होता था मेरे जैसे कोई थोड़े बहुत पागल लोग जिनको बड़ा शौक होता था कि ऑनलाइन चलो यार कुछ करते हैं, तो वो एक कोई ना कोई चीज स्टार्ट कर लेते थे. एक जमाने में मैंने ब्लॉग कर लिया, फिर मैंने एक जमाने में फ्रीलांसिंग कर ली, फिर आजकल मैं कुछ और कर रहा हूँ. बट नाउ it's everyone who wants to have that kind of an online opportunity. So that's more or less the area in terms of freelancing. Skills के लिहाज से I think one of the things that we have seen, especially with our developer communities at Google, is that people are finding the need to upskill themselves more and more. So they are buying into the concept of lifelong learning. क्यों इस तरह हुआ है? Because obviously some companies had to let go people, so there is a lot of downsizing happening. Downsizing में क्या होता है कि a lot of these developers, they realize कि oh, I might not be able to survive with just learning PHP. I might have to learn something more, cutting edge or something new, maybe machine learning, maybe data science. So a lot of these developers are now trying to learn new things, and that is great news for Pakistan. Why that is great news for Pakistan is because suddenly those people who were just doing, oh, मैं WordPress कर लेता हूँ, या oh, मैं digital marketing कर लेता हूँ, now they are also exploring cutting edge, high level digital skills, which is indeed going to help them get better jobs, and eventually is going to help them become more productive. Because overall क्या हुआ है कोविड की वजह से automation की need भी ज़्यादा होगी. Everyone I think needs to learn Python. Like if you ask me, आजकल मैं बहुत ज़्यादा evangelize कर रहा हूँ Python को. Why? Because you need to be able to write basic scripts on how to do this or that, or even control your home automation with things like Google Assistant, very small things. आपको लगेगा कि बहुत मुश्किल चीज़ है. These are very small things that you start learning, and eventually find out, yeah, it's very much fun. And you start learning them with your kids in your home. You take them to scratch. You make them learn, block programming and all of that. So I think this different multi-dimensional, kind of concept that I've shared, this is how the whole scenario is changing for digital skills.
Okay, thank you, Saad. And as a follow-up question, I think just for the people who are listening to us, so there are platforms that the government is offering in order to upskill, in order to learn digital skills. But how do we close that loop in terms of, a person learning a skill to a person getting a job? In terms of, I'm sure you have the experience and you've had come across this question before, but my question is just to understand how does a person learn the skill, but also ensure that there are platforms that they can go to for getting a job or a project.
So I think a very great question, very great follow-up question on that in this regard is, क्योंकि होता ये कि a lot of people learn skills, but उनको ये नहीं समझ आता कि हम जाके क्या करें इसके बाद, what do we get into? I, like, in my mind, kind of imagine these three pathways, which kind of help someone who's trying to learn new things, and I'm just going to share what those three pathways are. So एक उसमें से है is freelancing वाला. Okay, people, what they would do is they would learn a particular skill. They would go to a platform like Upwork. They would go to a platform like Fiverr. If they're really good at graphic designing, they would go to a platform like 99U for designing. इस तरह के और भी बहुत सारे platform हैं. Guru एक platform है. Lots of other platforms as well. You will actually see more and more remote work and freelancing platforms pop up after this whole digital transformation thing that has happened recently. So ek to ye ki, you go to these freelancing platforms and you start looking for small gigs, small jobs or something like that. The second one is, you explore into becoming an entrepreneur. And I know this sounds very easy. Article entrepreneurship, it sounds like a very easy word to throw out there as like a solution to many of the problems, but I'll explain कि जो मेरा वाला entrepreneur है ये थोड़ा सा मेरे mind में किस तरह से different है. So मेरा वाला जो entrepreneur है, it's a company of one. There's a very amazing book by Paul Jarvis called A Company of One. It's a book that I recently read that literally changed my mind. And why? Because it's a book that says that everyone can build a company of one. You don't have to build a company which is going to, after a couple of years, do $1 billion exit, or आप BMW लेके घर जा रहे होंगे. That's not going to happen to everyone. But what everyone can do is, everyone can learn very basic skills like WordPress, digital marketing, which you can learn in a matter of a couple of weeks. And you can digitize things. You can digitize things in your home. You can start selling stuff. You can start selling stuff for people that you know, friends and family. You can start selling stuff for your local kiryani ki shop. So this digital transformation is going to happen by these people who are going to form companies of one. So very, very small companies, which are more like small businesses. So ये एक दूसरी major pathway that you can choose for yourself. You can go to any regular business which has shut down, and so let's say gyms have been affected the most. Why can't you just go to your local gym and tell them how you're going to set up, this system for them using Google Meet, in which their trainers can come up online, set up a membership website, and you charge 500 rupees for that. I know people who have done that. You can do that as well if you take that pathway. The third pathway is a smart worker. So a smart worker is anyone who is already employed. आप कहीं already job कर रहे हैं, and now you want to upskill yourself, or you want to have a side gig, or you want to sell something on the side. ये उन लोगों के लिए जो कि अपनी job नहीं छोड़ना चाहते, which is something I highly recommend to people who do not have the financial stability. Entrepreneurship या हर किसी के बस की बात नहीं है. It takes a lot of grit, but what you can start with is you can start becoming a smart worker, start learning these new tools and services on how to automate yourself and become digital savvy. So yeah, those are the three pathways that I would recommend.
Thank you, Saad. That's a really good advice. And I think from what I also gathered from your answer was also that you just need to be very opportunistic as well when it comes to digital technology and digital savviness. So look around you and see what opportunities exist and how you can digitize them. Thank you for that. My next question, Maria, is to you. So you've been actively working for women in helping them with digital skills. So I wanted to ask you, women, while they play an integral role in uplifting our economy, there is still room for or more that we can do. So in your opinion, how can more women play their role in the digital economy?
Thank you, Cynia. So first things first, for women to use the digital economy, we need to provide enabling environments. Without those, it's not possible for them to do much. We know that in Pakistan, I've written down the stat because I keep forgetting, women are 49% less likely to use the internet compared to men. And the reason that's cited is the family doesn't allow it. Now, why doesn't the family allow it? There could be several reasons, but one glaring one that we see online is online harassment. There is so much of it, and that's what gets highlighted, and that's what the men see, and then they discourage their women from using the internet. So that's a huge impediment. Now we need to provide safer online spaces. We also need to provide mentoring and workshops on simple things like how to, do banking. There are so many who are unbanked, especially women who are unbanked. So we need to provide these simple workshops on how to do that, on inclusion also, and what that means, and how to remain safe online. The Digital Rights Foundation and BOLOBI and all these other organizations have been doing phenomenal work in that area. And those are so important when we think about women joining the digital economy. And that has been one of my biggest challenges only working with women, is that whenever I have to give a workshop, I have to make it a mandatory segment of that workshop, how to stay online, because it becomes our responsibility bringing these women online, and they're not telling them what are the potholes to look for and how to stay safe. That, having said that, we have, seen innovative solutions come up due to COVID, like the virtual women exhibition that's going on right now on Facebook by a Facebook community called Connected Women. And these are women entrepreneurs. What Saad referred to is single person, one person companies. Sole proprietorships, not even registered. Like the World Bank just came up with these figures that is really bugging me for a very long time. They said that only 1% of Pakistani women are entrepreneurs, which I do not agree with. In the formal economy, yes. In the informal economy, no. All you have to do is go on Facebook, join a page, and you will see, join a group, and you will see how much buying and selling is happening. And these are those one-person companies or the self-employed, people. So these women now, these are the women who would usually never spend on an online exhibition. They wouldn't even understand the concept. They would want to go to offline to the usual, a Haryali market, a Musavi market, a Dachi, or other things like that, Behbood fairs. But now, because of the situation, they have really, jumped on the bandwagon, and they're really trying to, change the way they do things. So that shift is coming. The other great thing is the Facebook She Means Business training program. Now, those things are really needed. And this is where I have, I would like to call on the people forming the, policies in our country. People like, Digital Pakistan should be one step ahead of all of this and be coming up with these solutions rather than someone coming from outside, which is also great, which is perfectly fine. But how do you, make it more, in the context of the local economy, how do you make it more relevant? And what are the other initiatives that Digital Pakistan can do? Because that's really why they're there. But then there are others like, the Ejaz program, BISP, that has a ton of data. And they can easily see what is it that people need? What is it that women need? Because most of their beneficiaries are women. With BISP, it's actually just women. So what is it that these women need? So come up with, learn from it and educate yourself. Instead of waiting for COVID to happen, digital was the way to go a long time ago, not just because of COVID. It has been there for a long time. India has taken online in a big way. They have initiatives like Aadhaar, and Digital India has done tremendous work, in terms of going to the rural areas and digitizing them, and hotspots, the Bharat hotspots, etc. But what is being done here, except for Punjab, the few Wi-Fi hotspots you see here from the previous government, you don't see much else being done. And that is is where the beef is, So these women, if they want to do digital economy, they need all of these things, all of these elements in place. And at the core of all this, again, I'll reiterate, is connectivity and access. Without connectivity and access, you cannot talk about digital economies. Of course, there is a shift. It's getting much better, but much more needs to be done. And that's where we really need the government to step in.
All right. So I think there should be, what I gather, there should be more public-private partnerships. There should be more involvement of the government and different organizations, the development sector coming together. I agree with you completely on the fact that BISP and a lot of other organizations have a lot of data that can be taken and studied, and actually checking how we can further provide those women with more financial inclusion, more women businesses and opportunities as well. Thank you for that. Jehan, my next question. So I wanted to ask you one more question. So in the current situation that we are in, there are obviously new businesses coming up. There are startups who are currently working in a very brick and mortar way or a very traditional way, but are now turning to e-commerce as well. So what advice would you give to the startups running their current e-commerce stores, or who are turning towards that in order to sustain themselves online?
So, okay, so some of the startups that are already running online stores, like Mandi Express, for instance, which sells online groceries, yeah, they've seen a spike in their in the number of orders that they're getting. And so being able to sustain and grow and for it not to affect their quality of service is something that they need to focus on. They don't want to lose access to the market that they are suddenly getting access to simply because people don't want to go out and purchase things. But those who are now entering online selling, I think the first thing that they should look at is what type of products people are looking for, and then focus on that and double down, because buying patterns have changed. For the short term, at least, buying patterns have changed. People are shifting away from luxury goods to more essential items.
That's true.
So they need to make sure that they don't try and sell things that are very expensive that the majority of Pakistanis will not be able to buy. So focus on that. Make sure that the consumer experience is taken care of. It has to be good, and communicating with the customer throughout the entire order flow. Because very often what happens is that you order and after that, there's nothing. So, make sure that you connect with the customer and make sure that throughout the process, it's taken care of. And especially in the time of COVID, make sure that the delivery is sanitized, that people are not scared to receive your product, that the person delivering the product needs to keep the safety measures, the SOPs in mind, because this is going to be something that people look at throughout this period. So I had to buy, for instance, I had to buy medicine, which I would never have thought of purchasing online. I don't know why. Books I purchased, everything else I purchased, gadgets I purchased online. But medicines, I would always go down to the pharmacy and purchase the medicine. But about a week or 10 days ago, I went to the pharmacy and they said, oh, sorry, we are not getting this anymore. And this was for my blood pressure, which I can't stop this medication, right? So they said, oh, not receiving it anymore. So I said, oh God, what do I do? So I went to 2 or 3 pharmacies and they said it was out of stock, which is when I went to the y.pk. Now, I should have thought of doing that, instinctively, because, online buying is something I always have done and will continue to do, but never thought of buying medicine online. Went up there, ordered it, and it was delivered within 24 hours.
Wow, and that's amazing.
It was the right medicine. They checked with me if I had got it, if I had any complaints. The whole experience was so good that I will never think of going back to buying from a store again, because all I will do is place the order. In fact, I was thinking I'll go and explore whether there is an option for me to put in that I need this medicine every month, because this is something I've been taking for 20 years. So if there is such an option, I will place it so that it automatically happens. So I think these are the kind of experiences that anybody who is starting an online service will have to offer. Make sure that the service is good, make sure that the product is relevant, and make sure that it is not too expensive for people to buy. So this is something,
And I think this is also something, Jehan, thank you for that advice. I think that's great advice for startups to listen to. One of the things they could also add is probably add it to their marketing campaign. So the more you communicate, as you mentioned, the more you communicate with your customer, the more you let them know that, you know, your service is, I mean, all the necessary precautions are being taken care of, and it's all sanitized and clean. So people will build that trust that you were mentioning earlier as well.
But I think without the marketing, nobody's going to know they exist. Second thing is perhaps, you know, endorsements from people that your customer would trust. That is very important. And sometimes people give endorsement without charging you for it if they know you're a startup. You know, they will. So it's always good to create interesting digital material and also have endorsements from people who your customer would trust. Maybe they wouldn't instantly trust you because they don't know you yet, but they do know all these other people's referrals, endorsements. Those are extremely important if they're going to increase the size of their market.
And I think word of mouth goes a long way. I mean, just right now you mentioned Divide.pk. I'm sure many of our listeners and even I think I'm going to try it out and see how it goes as well. Saad, I wanted to ask you
I should have worked out a deal with Furqan Kidwai before.
That's true. But yeah, if they are available in Islamabad, I would definitely give it a try as well. Saad, I wanted to ask you, I mean, I'm sure on all these panel discussions and these events and conferences that you speak at, I'm sure there must be some question that you are asked most during discussions on digital skills. So could you tell us what that is, or could you share your response on how you tackle that question?
Sure, yes. So एक तो थोड़ा सा मैं उर्दू में स्विच कर रहा हूँ, मैं कुछ कमेंट्स पढ़ रहा था, वो जरा इतराज कर रहे थे कि पैनलिस्ट
अच्छा कोई चले हम उर्दू में शिफ्ट हो जाते हैं.
एक तो आई थिंक लर्निंग पे सवाल है. सो आई एम वेरी मच ऑब्सेस्ड विद लाइफ लॉन्ग लर्निंग. अ लॉट ऑफ द थिंग्स यू नो जो मेरी जॉब का भी पार्ट है, बट व्हाट आई हैव बीन डूइंग इज अबाउट अंडरस्टैंडिंग हाउ द ह्यूमन माइंड वर्क्स एंड हाउ द ह्यूमन माइंड लर्न्स. One of the things that I've seen that if you are a learner, if you're obsessed with learning, you will keep learning. ये एक चीज आपको नजर आएगी, and you will think, oh, that's maybe a given, that's probably something जो आपको already पता है, but इस तरह नहीं है. So that is why अगर आप जाके statistics देखें तो आपको पता लगेगा कि कोर्सेरा पे जो बंदा 5 दफा कोर्स ले रहा है, there is a highly likelihood that that person will take 50 courses because that person is obsessed with learning. And what's happening क्या हो रहा है इंटरनेट के साथ is कि लोग अब अपना टाइम डेडिकेट करें. सो एक तो लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं कि अच्छा हम कितना टाइम डेडिकेट करें towards learning. Usually I have a rule of thumb for this. So I usually say, and I know it's difficult, especially when you have kids, when you have family. और मैं मर्द होके बड़े आराम से कह सकता हूँ, my wife might not be able to say the same. So I'm very much aware of these limitations of the local challenges, but at least 7 to 10 hours every week. अब वो 7 से 10 घंटे आपने नेटफ्लिक्स से निकालने हैं, वो 7 से 10 घंटे आपने किसी अपने एक और काम से निकालने हैं, अपने वर्क से निकालने हैं. I actually usually have, even in my work calendar, there's a time that is fixed for that. So calendar में time fixed होता है. So that time my manager, he even knows कि he can't bug me because this is my learning time. So 7 से 10 घंटे I usually recommend. That's a bare minimum if you want to thrive in this world that's going to digitally transform, because इतनी ज़्यादा चीजें आ गई हैं कि पहले तो आपको पता होना चाहिए कि ये है क्या. Like blockchain for example, आपने लफ्ज बड़ा सुना होगा, but how many people can actually explain in one tweet simple कि blockchain है क्या. So छोटे-छोटे से concepts होते हैं जिनका आपको पता होना जरूरी होता है. Then goes to a little bit of more advanced kind of learning, जिसके लिए you obviously need more time. तो एक तो एक क्वेश्चन है कि कितना टाइम लगाएं. दूसरा एक क्वेश्चन जो मुझे पूछने के मिलता है कि जी अच्छा अब हमने ये सीख लिया है, अब हम क्या सीखें. And that seems like more like like I'm some sort of a learning therapist who can just out of the blue come up with answers. It's not that simple, and I've tried to practice this myself in a little bit of the coaching that I've started doing recently, is to ask a lot of the state of, mind of that particular person who's trying to learn things. और उस पे goal बहुत depend करता है. Like, what is your goal? What in next 3 years, where do you want to work? Like, for example, if you would tell me that data science is something that I really like, I would like to work in this. So there would be like, a few steps through which you'll have to go to eventually know whether data science is something that you that you like working for long. काफी ज़्यादा लोगों को लफ्ज़ बड़े अच्छे interesting sound करते हैं, machine learning, data science, digital marketing, but when they actually get into it, तो उनको पता लगता है कि oh, this is really boring. Like when I got into I think machine learning recently, I found it really boring. I dropped it, and then I realized, oh, it's not for me. But then I got into this thing. There's a Google technology called Flutter, which is more about building apps. I fell in love with it. It was so much fun. Like, it's more about putting structures together. So eventually try to see कि क्या वो चीजें जो आपको पसंद हैं and that you would like to stick with. And the third obvious question is, जो हर कोई पूछता है, how much money we can make with this, which is actually a very, very, very vague kind of a question, because it all depends on how much of a good seller you are. And I think pitching as a person, pitching a product, pitching an idea, has become more important than ever, because everyone who receives an email from you, whether it's Maria, myself, or Jehan, or even Cynia, अब पहले हमें क्या होता था कि we would maybe be at some gathering और वहाँ पे मिल रहे होते थे और कोई हमें आके कहता था ये आप मेरा आइडिया सुनिए, we would be interested because we are stuck at that place. अब हम सारे घर में बैठे हुए हैं साल के एंड तक या मोस्ट प्रॉब्ली अगले साल, तो या आपने हमें व्हाट्सएप पे मैसेज करना है, या आपने हमें जो है ना वो फेसबुक मैसेंजर पे मैसेज करना है, या आपने हमें ईमेल लिखनी है. So our attention span is going to be super low in terms of seeing कि यार हमने किस चीज को रिस्पॉन्ड करना है. So you have to get more creative in terms of pitching your attention to the people that you want to pitch to. So yeah, these are summary of these questions. Yeah.
That's actually, these are questions I think that might be, I mean, some of the people in the audience might have these questions as well. So it's good that we have this discussion rolling. We'll quickly be going through, I'll have just one last question to ask to Maria, but after that we'll be going to our Q&A session. So for the viewers, for the audience, if you would like to ask our panel a question today, just leave that in the comments section, and then we will be taking them up in the Q&A. Maria, आपके लिए आखिरी एक सवाल है. So if any women starting out, if they want to start a business, what is one piece of practical advice that you would like to give to them based on your experiences working with different women in your line of work?
जी, तो सबसे पहले तो बहुत शुक्रिया कि आप लोगों ने कहा कि उर्दू में बात करें. अगर आप पश्तो का कहेंगे तो हम उसमें भी बात कर लेंगे. तो हमने कहा एम्बेसी वालों को समझ नहीं आएगी, इसलिए अंग्रेजी में बात कर रहे थे और लिखनी पड़ी थी हमें कि क्या बोलना, गलत ना बोल दें, कल को मीम्स बन जाएंगे. अच्छा, और दूसरी बात ये कि बहुत ही ज़बरदस्त जो इफेक्ट आया कोविड का, अल्लाह माफ़ी दे, बहुत ही बुरी चीज़ है, लेकिन जो बहुत अच्छा इफेक्ट आया वो ये है कि मेरे बच्चों के स्कूल अभी तक एक्सपेक्ट करता था कि हम फी बिल लेके जाएंगे अपने बैंक में, वहाँ से चेक कैश कराएंगे, फिर वो कैश लाए के उनके बैंक में जाएंगे, फिर वहाँ डिपॉजिट कराएंगे. डिस्पाइट न्यूमरस पेरेंट टीचर मीटिंग के अंदर ये इशू रेज हुआ कि ऑनलाइन क्यों नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि वो टैक्स नेट का मसला था ना. तो अब जैसे ही कोविड हुआ, विद इन 1 वीक वो मसले सारे हल हो गए. अब हम लोग ऑनलाइन पेमेंट करते हैं, विच इज वंडरफुल. मतलब कोविड ने और कुछ किया या नहीं, तो इस पे सलाम, सलूट टू कोविड कि उसने ये मसला बड़ा सॉल्व कर दिया हमारा, और वो भी अब टैक्सेस देंगे स्कूल वाले भी. एनीवे, coming back to your question, practical advice ये है कि आपको इंतहाई इस सोसाइटी में, किसी भी सोसाइटी में एक एज अ वुमन सर्वाइव करने के लिए इंतहाई ढीठ होना पड़ता है. इंतहाई आप मतलब इतने स्टबर्न ना कि आपसे बड़ा स्टबर्न कोई नहीं है. मतलब आप जहानारा से पूछें इनसे कितनी दफा इनके बारे में इनके कान तक ये बात पहुंची होगी कि ये क्यों पाशा की प्रेसिडेंट है, मतलब व्हाई हर, यू नो. तानिया एद्रुस बेचारी की जिंदगी अजीरन कर दिया. आप समझो कि इससे पहले तो जितने गुजरे हैं ना, उन्होंने पाकिस्तान को मतलब जैक्सन्स तक ले गए, फ्लिंटस्टोन्स की बजाय. ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ, लेकिन बीइंग अ वुमन आपसे एक्सपेक्टेशन बहुत ज्यादा होती है. बीइंग अ वुमन मेरे से मतलब अगर मैं आपको बताऊं ना, थोड़ी सी एक लिस्ट दूं कि यार ये चीजें अचीव की हैं, तो फिर पता चलता है. अदरवाइज एवरीवन इज ट्राइंग टू पुल यू डाउन एंड टेल यू आर यू आर नॉट वर्दी एंड यू कांट डू दिस एंड यू कांट डू दैट. तो वो आपको, यू हैव टू बी एक्सट्रीमली स्टबर्न and just know that you will find that support. You will find it, it will be around you. But हाँ, bigger picture में आपको थोड़ा सा उसको मतलब you have to learn to ignore it. अपने काम पे focus करें. Secondly, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to take yourself seriously. A mentor once told me 10 years ago when I started my journey, 11 years ago, so saal baad, she said ke frame your logo, get a logo and frame it and put it somewhere where you can see it, so that you believe that you are running a business, because unless you believe that it's a business, nobody else is going to believe you. I did that, and really it has made all the difference. Getting my business cards and that logo really made me start believing that I was doing it. Thirdly, please, if you can, open your own bank account. It's very important that you have your own bank account. चाहे उसके अंदर आप लोग कहते हैं ना हम तो इतना पैसे ही नहीं कमाते, बैंक अकाउंट में क्या डालेंगे, कुछ भी ना हो. Literally, there are times, और शायद अभी भी वो टाइम हो, I'm not saying कि है, I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe abhi bhi wo time okay, मेरे भी बैंक अकाउंट में कुछ भी नहीं है, but I do have a business account separate from my personal account. Similarly, please network. Please meet people. हम लोग अक्सर ये कहते हैं, औरतें टाइम ज़ाया होता है, मैंने क्या करना है वहाँ जाके, इससे बेहतर है मैं घर में ये कर लूँ वो कर लूँ. No, it's important. You need to meet these people. Women chamber, आप लोग मुंह बनाते हो, women chamber की क्या ज़रूरत, but it's very important. You need to be connected to them, to Ty, to Open, to Pasha, whoever. You need to be out there and meeting these people. It's really important. And then when the time arises, when the time comes, do support other women, because it really matters. आपको जो support आपस में एक दूसरे से मिलती है वो आपको कहीं से नहीं मिल सकती. One thing that I would like to add to previous questions is कि जब हम बात करते हैं कि women joining the digital economy, COVID की वजह से जहाँ बहुत फायदा हुआ है, हम घरों से काम कर रहे हैं whatever, लेकिन हमारा काम tenfold बढ़ गया है. मैं जो कभी भी घर में किचन का काम नहीं थी करती, अब क्योंकि हाउस हेल्प नहीं है, मुझे किचन में टाइम गुजारना पड़ रहा है, तो उसकी वजह से मेरा काम अफेक्ट हो रहा है. मेरे पास चाइल्ड केयर नहीं है. बहुत सारी, मेरे तो बच्चे बड़े हैं, बट बहुत सारी औरतों के बच्चे छोटे हैं, उनके पास चाइल्ड केयर नहीं रहा. उनके मतलब मर्दों पे इतना असर नहीं हुआ, वो फिर भी अपने काम करते हैं और उसके बाद the rest of their day is the same. हाँ, बाहर नहीं निकल सकते, but the women have to be 24/7. They are stuck with the housework. So please bear that in mind कि बड़ा मुश्किल टाइम है, and we all need to come together, एक दूसरे की हेल्प करनी चाहिए. तो women entrepreneurs को यही है, now is the time, join your business. क्या होगा, फेल हो जाओगे, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, कौन सा पहले बड़ी एम्पायर बनाई हुई थी, जब भी फेल हो गए तो बड़ा नुकसान हो जाएगा. Start from somewhere, you'll be perfectly fine, कुछ भी नहीं होगा. So that's my practical advice.
That's actually great practical advice. I mean, I kind of, your words resonate with me as well. मुझे भी पता है कि, and I think this is something voicing out for all women out there as well. While I'm not saying कि मर्द हजरात नहीं काम कर रहे हैं घर में, but mostly होता यही है कि expectation ज़्यादा होती है from the women to take care of the household matters, the kitchen and all of the other things along with the work as well. So I think that's one area where I feel like that's really practical, good advice that you gave. We have a question here from the audience. We have Amna Durrani. She's basically saying that there are areas without a wide digital divide, primarily due to lack of internet. So Balochistan mein, KPK areas especially, and there are still out there in the mainstream. So how do our experts look at this long-standing and complex challenge? So all of you, maybe the question is addressed to all, so maybe you can address it one by one.
If I can start, I think Maria mentioned this in answer to the first question, that internet is not easily accessible to a lot of people in the rural areas, in the smaller towns. There is so much money sitting at the USF, the Universal Service Fund. I think the first thing that needs to be done is to make sure that internet is available to all, and at, if not free, then at very affordable prices. So, unless they do that, this digital divide will continue. People used to say that there is a digital divide because people don't know how to read or write. I think with the prevalence of more video content, YouTube, all of that, That is no longer the case. My housekeeper cannot read or write. She uses TikTok, she uses YouTube, she uses Facebook just to upload photos and video content. And she learns so much. She started using English words that I didn't, that I'm surprised to hear because she is not literate. So, I think the need for the government to provide affordable internet access to the rest of the country, not just to the cities, is extremely important. And it cannot be said enough. Maria said it. This is something we all think. And the sooner they do it, the better. There is money. If there wasn't money, we would say, okay, there's no money, we can't do it. There is money. And now with 4G and 5G coming in, that should also be made affordable, because a lot of people in the rural areas and in small towns may not have computers, but they all have, most of them have phones. And with the prices of phones going down, and with, I hear, local manufacturing about to begin, people will have access to phones and they can access a lot of content, a lot of learning, e-commerce, everything on their phones. So I think this is essential. They need to figure this one out.
That's true. Saad, would you like to add?
So yeah, no, I'm not an expert on the connectivity part. Jehan has added much on that, very clear, very to the point. But I think from a tech perspective, there is a very big focus on helping build apps or build systems which are not dependent on connectivity. There is actually a whole program by Google that is called Progressive Web Apps, Progressive Apps, which is apps that run without connectivity. Obviously, not the optimal solution, but still something that can be done. I would encourage more, developers, whoever listening out there, कि यार इस तरह की चीजें बनाएं. Wikipedia, offline Wikipedia has been very popular for a very, very long period of time. Why can't we create more of, such apps? And I know even EdTech में भी tele तालीम है, इस तरह के कुछ और हैं who have been working on, some creative ways कि apps इस तरह की बनाएं जो आप offload कर दें phones में, and those phones can run in areas where there is no internet. So again, not the most optimal solution, but can get the work started somewhere. In fact, I know in Africa and some of the other parts of the world as well, programming इसी तरह लोग सीखते हैं, which they have access to a laptop or a computer or a tablet, but they don't have connectivity. So everything is done in local. So I think मेरा ज़्यादा perspective होगा innovation का, and people who can come up with such innovations that can be spread in these areas. Yeah, that's my point.
All right, thank you, Saad. Maria, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm good. I think Saad and Jehan already said what I wanted.
We have a couple of just questions. There is a question directed, so it's from Mohammed Qasim Said, and he's asking, what will be the future of universities? And
I want to take a, I want to start with this. I think that's a brilliant question. I'll tell you why. मेरे ज़हन में जो है ना पिछले कुछ दिनों से आ रहा है कि यार why can't we create like a future university, something that's just revolutionary. And I think it would be wrong to not accept कि काफी इस तरह की चीजें already हो रही हैं. So for example, if you look at the US, there's something called the Lambda School, which is focused on creating software engineers through an accelerated program. It was always online. It's running there. वो अभी भी चल रहा है, पहले भी चल रहा था. I think ज़्यादा जो innovation नजर आएगी, वो आएगी locally. Like I want to see, and I'm not talking about LMSs, क्योंकि LMS तो हर कोई बना रहा है. मतलब universities ने भी LMS अपने launch कर दिए. I'm talking about universities of the future, which really think of how the user is going to sit at home. वो कैसे अपना schedule लेगा, कैसे एक lecture हो रहा होगा, person will just walk in, कैसे education उस पे जाएगी. EdTech कुछ startups भी हैं जिस पे काम करेंगे. So I think the university of the future will look very different than an online LMS. It will be very, very new kind of a concept, very kind of a different kind of a concept. And I personally have not so far have seen many examples of this, except maybe in the US या कुछ और global. But EdTech is going to be like, ह्यूज की मैं वो ढूंढने लगा था, वो सुपरलेटिव फॉर्म, फिर मुझे याद है खुद ही शायद सुपरलेटिव है. So hugest, maybe form of is the future. Quick example, Biju, India में company है, which has been recently, they're raising around, which will value them at maybe $10 billion. So just look into these companies, look into EdTech, and look at this area. EdTech is going to grow huge exponentially. So yeah.
All right.
University of the future, I'd like it to be very, very different. I would like it to be more experimental, hands-on, rather than text-oriented and, top-down learning. The professor knows everything and he or she is going to teach us what they know. I've seen this at school level, and certainly at university level, this needs to change. I walked into a school, and I was talking about this in another session we had, walked into a school, one of the really established schools in this city. They asked me to come and talk to their computer science class. And there's this teacher standing in front of a computer and telling them, this is a monitor, and this is a disk drive, and this is a mouse. And then she opened up one of the paint or draw programs, and one of the children started jumping up and down and said, Miss, I know, I'd like to show everybody how this is done. And she said, sit down, listen to what I'm saying, I'm going to teach you. Probably that kid knew about that program more than the teacher or I would ever know, right? Because most of these kids, because of the school that they were going to, had computers at home. So I think that this thought process that the teacher knows everything has to go. It has to be collaborative learning. It has to be hands-on and experimental learning. And that's what I'd like the University of the Future to be doing, and solving problems of society rather than just, learning things. Like throughout my schooling, even though it was in Hong Kong, I always wondered why I was learning half the things that I was being taught. क्या फायदा होगा? ये real life में कहाँ मैं इस्तेमाल करूँगी? And I'm sure kids today are thinking the same thing. Is it rote learning? Do they just have to pass exams? I think exams should be thrown out the window as well. Sorry, I'm a rebel at heart, so.
No, I think I completely agree with you on that one. So we have another, not so much of a question, but a comment. Ahmed Burad sharing one of his experiences and saying, how can we request our government to give us access to internet? He lives in Murray, but all of his students are from FATA who face this problem. So sometimes they travel up to 30 kilometers to catch him on the classes and learnings as well. So that's an experience shared. And I think that's somewhat what we have discussed so far in our previous question on connectivity and how to ensure that 4G, 5G is provided access to all of Pakistan as well. So,
Tanya, if I may, FATA
yes,
or Balochistan and parts of GB, ये sensitive areas हैं. इसमें connectivity का इतना बड़ा issue नहीं है. Connectivity वहाँ ले जाना is not a big deal. GB के अंदर already है. Telenor ने बहुत ज़्यादा उसमें invest भी किया. लेकिन वो सेंसिटिव एरियाज हैं, इस वजह से वहाँ पर कनेक्टिविटी का आपको प्रॉब्लम आता है, तो उसका हम कुछ ज़्यादा नहीं कर सकते. Being from the merged districts myself, from FATA myself, I can tell you कि it's not such a big issue of connectivity, क्योंकि वहाँ पे जो इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी है, लेकिन वो masses को available नहीं है, unfortunately, अभी for state security reasons and others. तो वो issue है वहाँ पर.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so I think if there are no further questions on the comment section I'm looking at, just a few comments from our the same people that we were interacting with. They really liked your answers. I would like to conclude the session for today. Jehan, Saad, and Maria, it has been a pleasure hosting you on this panel discussions. Quite some insightful discussions that we did, and a few pointers that I took out as well. So thank you for taking out your time. And I do hope that you have a wonderful day and enjoy the rain if there is in your areas as well.
There isn't, unfortunately, in my area.
I'll try to send some your way.
we could do with it. It's very hot. Thank you very much for inviting me, and it was great to be on the same panel with these two young, bright individuals. I really am inspired by them, so it's great that we were able to share the panel together.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was really nice seeing you, Jehan and Saad. We don't get to meet each other much, but it was really nice seeing you. And thanks, Puan, for making it possible.
Likewise, same sentiments. Thank you, Cynia. Thank you, Puan. Thank you, folks. Enjoyed the discussions and have a great week ahead. Happy
Thank you so much. You too. Thank you, Puan, and have a great evening. Khuda Hafiz.